Welcome to Crime Most French, a fortnightly podcast covering intriguing cases carried out on French soil. Researched and narrated by Cedric and rudely interrupted by me, Melanie. We're the true crime podcast on the Alliance. Crack open le vin and let the mayhem commence.
This is episode 64, the Ourcq canal drownings. One morning in July 2004, a lockkeeper on the Ourcq canal, which is east of Paris, called the gendarmerie to report a woman's body. It is bound with duct tape. It's clearly not an accident.
This very much feels like the start of an Inspector Morse episode.
Does it?
In my head, anyway.
Yeah, I can see in Oxford, yes. Yeah. But they don't have locks on the canals, though, in Oxford.
No, I wouldn't have thought so, no.
No, whereas this canal has quite a lot of locks. On the 19th of July 2004, early morning, a lockkeeper on the Ourcq canal near Fresnes-sur-Marne, which is Seine-et-Marne, east of Paris, starts his shift like every other morning.
Mm-hmm.
But looking over the canal, he sees something floating on the surface. He knows instantly what it is, and he knows he's not going to have a good day.
Mm.
He calls the gendarmerie to report a woman's body floating on the canal. She's naked, in the fetal position, bound with duct tape around the hands and feet. It's not the first time it happens. Traditionally, canal locks tend to trap crab and bodies. That
Really?
seems to be a thing that happens a lot. But it's the first time for him, obviously.
Mm.
She's unidentified at the time, and because she has no papers, she doesn't have anything to identify her specifically. The gendarmerie has no idea who it is, so it's a Jane Doe.
Jane Doe, poor soul.
The next day, in the morning, another body is found in the canal by city employees cutting weeds at the bottom of the canal.
Now it definitely is sounding like an Inspector Morse episode.
Yes. Again, it's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Again, she's in a fetal position. Again, she's bound, but this time with ropes and straps. She's quickly identified as Angélique Despot, 23 years old, who had been reported missing the previous day.
Okay.
She lived in a nearby village. Angélique's father denies that she was a prostitute or a sex worker. He tells the press that he last saw her on Monday, 19th of July, in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
She had gone for a walk, as she often did, but had never come back. He had tried to call her many, many times without an answer. She had sometimes gone away for a few days, but she always told her dad where she went.
Where she was going.
This time
she's
she
23, she's not 13.
Yeah, exactly. She is allowed to go and whatever, but she normally told her parents where she went, and this time she didn't. So after a couple of days, he called the gendarmerie to report her missing.
Mm.
Of course, the rumor mill goes bananas,
No, of
because
course.
small village, dead person.
Yep.
That's what happens. Someone from a nearby village says that she was seen on the bank of the canal on Monday night at about 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
That she called her boyfriend. Someone also mentions that they saw a white car picking her up. Someone else says that a flasher was seen nearby, 80s flasher.
He's late. He's 20 years too late.
He's very, very late, yes. A lot of stupid and
unsubstantiated
things are reported to the press, obviously.
Right, of course. Just the I think this X Y.
Yes. I've seen that, and
Z.
I'm sure that, and yes.
Yeah.
I knew that happening, and
Mm-hmm. I've heard. Mm-hmm.
Autopsies are performed on the bodies, and in both cases the women drowned. So they were thrown into the canal alive, but bound, so they drowned.
I'm now silently wondering in my head why my husband, who knows I have massive fear of deep water and drowning, didn't warn me ahead of time. I can actually feel my throat closing. Those poor women. I'm actually feeling very breathless for them. What an absolutely horrible way to die.
Yes. On the plus side, it was in deep water, it's a canal, so
it doesn't matter.
Meters,
just
maybe,
the whole not being able to get your hands and feet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Yes. So the gendarmes start an inquiry. Their first idea is that it might be an Eastern European prostitution ring war, because that happened before.
Right.
You have a prostitution ring getting pissed off at another one, usually over territory or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's
the
usually
same,
the prostitutes that get killed.
Yeah, the same turf war that generally happens with drugs also
yeah,
happens
same.
sadly with women.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but usually it's the prostitutes that get killed as a warning or a message. So they think, oh, could it be that?
So they're basically just the equivalent of cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the second woman's dad, Angelique's dad, maintains that she had nothing to do with prostitution or sex work or anything like that. So they decide that maybe not, maybe it would be too easy, so they put it on the back burner for now.
Right.
So instead, they start investigating around the only victim they know, Ourcq, because they still don't know who the other one is.
The other one's still Jane Doe, yeah.
Yeah, the other one was more decomposed because she probably had been dead for longer.
Right.
So they have no idea. She obviously didn't live nearby, so nobody recognized her. So they have no idea who it is. So they concentrate on the second one.
Isn't that so sad when loved ones do go missing, but they're not noticed for so long?
Or it could have been. She could have been reported missing, but if she was reporting missing a few hundred kilometers away,
then you're not connecting the dots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And there's probably
so.
dozens, if not hundreds, of people who are missing at once.
Of course.
So they don't know at that point. So they start asking around her and the people she knows and everything. And the first thing they do, obviously, because we know how it works, they start asking about boyfriends and ex-boyfriends.
Yeah, it's always the first protocol.
Exactly, it's always the husband or the boyfriend. They discovered that she had a boyfriend called Sylvain, and they're also told by her parents about Gregory, an ex-boyfriend, who they didn't like because he had been violent with her.
Okay. So
the gendarme said, oh, that's interesting to know. So they go and try to find those people. And they also told about her best friend called Cyril.
Called what?
Cyril.
Oh, Cyril. I've never ever heard of a French Cyril.
Well, I've known plenty.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the early 70s, it was fairly common. So they go and arrest all three.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely, the most suspicious to them is the best friend, not the boyfriend. Because her parents say that since she disappeared, he comes and calls them a lot to ask them about what has been found, the progress of the inquiry, information generally about her and her disappearance, which they found a bit strange. And the gendarmes also found it a bit strange. They thought, could it be a guy who wants to know how the investigation about him is going?
I mean, that's classic textbook, becoming obsessed and talking about nothing else.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they get very interested in him. He wasn't disliked by her parents. He came to see her a lot. They'd known each other for a while. He often had lunch at the house. He's essentially a member of the family at that point.
Right.
So they start digging into his life, and they're told that he has a job, he pays his rent, he lives in his own place, he's a regular guy. The one thing that the gendarmes don't like is he's a goth. So he wears black and bright red, he has a half-shaved head, he has his eyebrows shaved in triangles, he has his nails cut into like claws.
Oh, right, okay. He's got that whole
he had
kind of
he had a triangular beard with braids and red beads in it.
Okay.
And anyway, he's weird looking, so gendarmes, not being that open-minded, straight away they don't like him. They decide that there is something not right about that dude.
Well, just because he's into vampires doesn't mean that he's...
Yeah, but they're gendarmes. That's the way they do. They don't like weird people.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the whole satanic panic thing. I mean, that never really goes away, does it?
Yeah. Also, it's very easy to have stereotypes and go with them. So that's what they do. So they get very interested in him. He's also strange looking because he's very pale, as you would expect a goth to be.
Oh, yeah.
He's also very thin. Apparently, according to people who know him, he lives on sweets and 1 meal a week.
That sounds like a recipe for lots of trips to the dentist.
Yes, and lacks of all vitamins and everything you might need.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
I mean, he's probably suffering from vitamin
Definitively,
D
totally.
deficiency.
Yeah. So anyway, he's a weirdo. They want to know more.
Yeah.
So they continue digging about his life and discover that a month earlier, a woman had pressed charges against him for having held her against her will after an S&M session.
Uh-oh.
So they discover that he's into S&M.
Oh, really? Oh, I am surprised.
Yes.
I mean, there's really, no judgment on people who are into that kind of lifestyle. I mean, it's the same kind of shortcut that the police take. The minute you find out that, if you do anything even remotely different in a bedroom, then you're considered a kinky weirdo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they ask his ex-girlfriends, and they do report that, that's what he liked. And one of the things he liked to do is to tie them in the fetal position.
Oh, Jesus.
So ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that's now all the alarm bells ringing.
Yep.
Here's me trying to justify his lifestyle, and maybe I shouldn't be quite so quick to do so.
Yep. One of his oldest girlfriends tells the gendarmes that he knew the canal as well, because they used to go there and swim when they were younger. But he had told the gendarmes that he had no knowledge of that canal. He had never been there. It wasn't a place he would go. So again, alarm sounds.
Yeah, he's a moody teenager. He'll have gone there.
Yes. The gendarmes at that point are certain it's him. They have no proof, obviously. But he's a weirdo. He likes S&M.
And he likes...
He's lied to them.
Yeah, and he likes tying
him.
them up in...
Yes, in the fetal position.
Yes.
That's him. So now they're going to try to prove that it's him. So to put pressure on the suspects, mainly on him, they arrest all of them and send them to jail.
Right. Feels a bit thin at the moment, but okay.
But they're allowed to arrest whoever they want if they think it would be useful for an inquiry and hold people for 48 hours, I think. So they essentially do that. They arrest everybody and put them in jail for 48 hours. When they go to Cyril's place to arrest him, they serve him with a search warrant. So they search his place. And strangely, everything is perfectly neat in this flat. Nothing is out of place. Nothing sticks out. It's like showroom flat. So they think, that's a bit weird. Nobody lives in a flat that's that clean. It's just, that's not something that is possible. You always have stuff lying around and there was nothing. So they're a bit suspicious, but they start looking around. The one thing that is a bit weird about his flat is the walls are covered in naked women's photos and magazine cuttings and all that.
Nice.
So they think, okay, he's obviously into that. And his drawers are full of S&M and bondage magazines.
Right.
Not a surprise given that they know about it, but still they think, okay. Also, his bed at each corner has rings where you could attach things.
Well, yes. That's not really that surprising.
But strangely, nothing to attach with in the flat. So no handcuffs, no ropes, no straps, no nothing.
Right.
So they think, that doesn't make sense.
It's a bit strange, yeah.
Either you have rings to attach things and the things to attach with, or you don't have either. But having half of that doesn't make any sense. So they're extremely suspicious of that at that point. But of course, they have nothing else to go on. There's nothing in the flat that is incriminating. So, okay, they start interrogating him. They quickly rule out Sylvain and Gregory, the boyfriend and the ex-boyfriend, because they have good alibis for the time.
Right.
So they're out of the picture. That is one guy, the one who they don't like.
This gothy Cyril.
Yeah. So they start questioning. At first, they discover from neighbors that he and Angelique have been seen together the day before she was killed.
Right.
Unfortunately, he had told the gendarmes that he hadn't seen her on that day. So, lie number 2. They don't like that. Also, 2 women living next door tell the gendarmes that at about 11 p.m. on the 19th, they heard loud noises coming from next door, like somebody's moving a heavy woolly bin.
A heavy...
Woolly bin.
Oh, okay. I heard, in my head, I thought you said woolly bin.
No, woolly
Wheelie bin,
bin.
yes.
So they also said that at some point they heard somebody shout, "Oh shit."
Uh-oh.
But they think it was his voice, but it was late at night. They're not completely sure, but they suspect it was him shouting, "Oh shit." All that obviously contradicts everything he told them.
Yeah, yeah.
So at that point, it starts not to smell too good for Cyril.
No.
His explanation for the noise is that he did move the bin to search for a winning lottery ticket that he had lost.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's unfortunate, but okay.
That's a rubbish explanation. I'm sorry, but you could think of a better explanation for moving a woolly bin. I don't know. You threw away your dinner or something, because it's like a week later. At that point, the bin is long gone.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be able to find out what was in that bin. So find a better explanation than the lottery ticket.
And shame on them for not recycling. That's what I say. You shouldn't be putting paper in the bin.
Well, he said he lost it. He didn't say he threw it on purpose.
True. That's very true.
So during the interrogation, the gendarmes get their hands on his phone data. And it turns out that it shows that he and Angelique were together the day before the body was found.
Okay, so
now they have proof that, yes,
the eyewitnesses are right.
At least some of what the eyewitnesses said was true. They were seen together the day before she died. Again, contradicts what he said.
Mm-hmm.
They also discovered that the next morning at about 6:30, he called his grandmother. So they contact her and they ask her, "Do you remember him calling you on that day that early?" And she said, "Oh yeah, because it wasn't common for him to be up that early." So she was surprised to get a phone call at 6:30.
Yeah.
So they ask her, "What did he talk about? What did he want to talk to you?" And she tells them that he wanted some money to put in his car for petrol.
Right.
And she gave it to them. And then I think, at 6:30 in the morning, why would he want to fill his car at 6:30 in the morning? He's not even supposed to be up normally. So they think, could it be that it was just an excuse to go to her place and hide stuff?
Right, okay.
So they get a search warrant and go and search her place.
Okay.
And there they found everything that was missing from his flat.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was an excuse to get to her place and hide stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they find handcuffs, they find straps, they find sex toys, they find gags, essentially the S&M toolkit. It's all there.
The thing is, I mean, it's kind of weird that he actually hid the kit, but he didn't hide all of the reading material about it.
It's also weird that he thought he could hide the thing and the gendarmes wouldn't discover that was his thing. Of course they would. So that was utterly stupid to even try to hide it, but that's what he did. So they found everything that was missing.
Mm-hmm.
One reason that he might have tried to hide things is he always maintained to everybody, the gendarmes, Angelique's parents, their friends, that they were only friends. He always denied that he had any sexual relationship with her.
Right, so we've got a When Harry Met Sally scenario going on.
Yes,
Men
except...
and women can't be friends.
Not really that, but the problem is, once they find the toolkit, they will find DNA.
Yes.
And they will know that it's not true. So they do find DNA, they send all the stuff to the lab, and they discover her DNA on all that stuff. So then they know that there was way more between them than he says, and than everybody knew. They were keeping it secret.
So they both had that alternative lifestyle and maybe wanted to keep it on the down low.
That's his explanation.
Yeah.
Yes. So then they think, okay, maybe what happened is there was an accident during one of those sessions.
She didn't remember the safe word.
Something like that. That could be the explanation. But then twice? Because they still think that he killed the other woman. They don't know who she was. They don't know anything about it, but they think two bodies, same position, same canal.
They have to be connected, yeah.
They have to be connected. So if we go with one, we have to go with the other.
Yeah.
So that's kind of suspicious. Two accidents in such a short time, that doesn't really fly. One other thing they find at the grandmother's house is a special book. A book where the pages have been carved to make space to hide stuff in the book. Like a secret
Straight
hiding
out of a
place.
Scooby-Doo
Straight out of
episode.
Scooby-Doo, yes. So when they find that, they instantly think, okay, something's going on. And in the books, they find 2 VHS tapes.
Right. Did they manage to find a player to play it on?
Well, in 2004, you could find easily a...
Yeah, it was probably junk shops. And
Well, I had one in 2004. I never used it, but I had one. It was easy to find at the time in shops, so
Okay,
that wasn't
Grandpa.
a problem. So they watched the tapes, and they contain recordings of Cyril and his ex-girlfriends. They show him torture them, and the gendarmes are amazed by what he does. They see that the more they scream, the more he gets off on it.
Oh, yeah.
So he likes to torture people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also on the tape, a number of girls appear, so they watch one after the other. And eventually they get to Angelique.
Right.
Who, remember, he wasn't supposed to have any...
Yeah, they were just
relationship.
chums, yes. Uh-huh.
So at the start of the recording, she appears to be consentant. She agrees to whatever he does, and she goes with it. And at some point, he puts a gag in her mouth. And at that point, she looks like she's panicking, and she seems to have trouble breathing. After a few minutes, she loses consciousness, and that's when the tape stops.
God. So it's like a snuff film at that
The
point.
gendarmes at that point, exactly, they think, okay, we've just watched a murder.
Yeah.
Of course, they don't have the end of it.
No.
They don't know if she's dead because it cuts off.
Well, that's horrifying.
But they think that, that is her murder. They continue watching. There's another one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, same thing happens. And they think, that's the second girl.
Yeah.
Of course, they still don't know who that is.
So they actually
But-
have her on video.
Yes. They go back to him, and he's still waiting in his cell. And they tell him what they found on the tapes. And they ask him, why did you lie to us? Because
Yeah.
you must have known that we were going to find out. That was
Yeah.
stupid. And he explains that it was just that their relationship was a secret. And that's it. It has no other explanation. They tell him that they saw these 2 girls, obviously at least losing consciousness, possibly dying.
Mm.
And he said, no, they didn't die. It was just part of the game. That's just what we did. They pretended to do that, and that's what I like to do, and everything was normal. That's the way we did things.
Mm.
Cops don't really buy it.
No.
At that point, the captain of the gendarmerie loses patience. So he essentially goes out, comes back with a big file, everything they have on him, put it in front of him, shows him everything they have, the testimony from the grandmother, what they found at her place, the phone location, the witness statements, everything. And he starts playing bad cop. So not 70s style when you can hit the
Yes.
suspects, but he stops just short of that.
Yes. But they're
And-
coming in and dramatically slamming down all of the...
making a
the
lot of
file.
noise, shouting at him, and
Yes.
within a couple of minutes he cracks and confesses.
Okay.
He says that he went to collect Angelique in the afternoon with his car,
Uh-huh.
and then they went back to his place. They started one of their sessions, and after he put a gag on her, she asked him to stop and free her.
Mm.
But he says, we always did that. That was part of the game. She was supposed to do that. She was supposed to struggle. She was supposed to ask me to stop,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't supposed to stop. That's how we did things. So he denies the fact that he killed her that way. But he does admit that this time she went limp and he panicked.
Mm.
So he tried to revive her by slapping her, apparently, after he stopped the tape. But that
No,
didn't
forget
work.
about CPR. Good old slap to the face.
Yeah. So then he didn't know what to do,
Mm.
because he said, I thought she was dead. So he put her in the bin. That's what the neighbors heard.
Okay, so that was right then.
Dragged the bin to his car, put her in the car, drove to the canal, and threw her in the canal.
But obviously, clearly, she wasn't dead.
But she wasn't dead. Now the question is, did he know she wasn't dead, or did he not know she was dead?
Yeah, but if that was an isolated incident, you could almost believe him. But-
Exactly, that second body is a problem.
Yes.
Given once, you would think, yeah, okay, he didn't know she wasn't dead. Twice, because the 2 girls drowned, that doesn't work. So they ask him about the other body.
Mm-hmm.
Did he also kill that woman? And who's she? And he denies to know who that is. He says, no, I don't know who that is. Never saw her, never contacted her. I don't know who that is. It's not me.
Yeah, but mate, you lie a lot.
At that point, yes. And at that point, it doesn't matter. It just is sent to trial.
But yes,
the judge decides to
just
charge him with 2 murders, and that's it.
Uh-huh. Okay. Fair enough.
So they prepare for the trial,
Mm-hmm.
and in the meantime, DNA results come back, and on his toolkit, they find 3 DNA profiles. His,
Uh-huh.
Angelique's,
Yep.
and another unknown person who's a woman.
Is this a Jane Doe?
So the
Okay.
cops say, okay, here's the DNA from the second body,
Yeah.
Is it
you
the
want to
same
tell
person?
Us who, do you want to tell us who it is?
and it's the same person. They still don't know who that is,
Yeah.
because she has no DNA
No ID,
in
no.
any database
No.
or anything like that. But it is the same person. So when he says he didn't know her, had no contact with her, has no idea who
That's
she
complete
is,
and utter nonsense.
that's again a lie, because her DNA is on his stuff.
Yeah.
So they want to find out who that is.
Mm-hmm.
So they take his phone and they decide to call every number he's called in the last year. That's 500 numbers.
Oh my God.
They call all 500 numbers. It takes them forever.
Yeah.
And they manage to rule out 499. There's one number that doesn't answer and hasn't been active since the 7th of July. So the week before.
Right. That
the
had the
body
more
was found.
decomposed. Okay.
And the number belongs to Omena Boumani, 26-year-old Moroccan escort girl.
All right. Okay.
On the day she disappeared, she received a phone call from a phone box that happened to be fairly close to where Cyril's flat was.
Mm.
And that, to the gendarme, changes things, because now it thinks of premeditation. Why
Yes.
would he go to a phone box to call her
Yes, when he has a
unless he didn't want to leave a trace
Yeah, exactly.
leading back to himself?
Oh, Cyril.
So now we're talking about murder 1.
Yeah.
The gendarmes ask him to explain,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and he still denies having killed her. He still denies knowing who she is, because of course there's a call from the phone box near his flat. It doesn't mean it's him. There's no proof it was him calling her
Yeah.
from that phone box. It could have been maybe hundreds of people. It's a very, very big coincidence, but he still denies that it was
2003.
him.
Only got about hundreds, is it?
But it depends. If it was in a small town, there could be, at worst, one building could have 100 people in it. So if it's a big building, but it wouldn't happen. But
Yeah,
if it
but
was a big building, it could be even thousands.
Who doesn't
But-
have a landline or a mobile phone at that point?
Yeah, but that still doesn't prove it's him. That's
No,
the thing.
no, of
That's what
course
he's
not.
playing
Oh,
on. He's
yeah.
he's using that fact
Yeah.
to deny that it was him.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, the gendarmes don't care. So they continue to trial. It doesn't matter. So it starts in September 2008. And by that point, he's completely changed his appearance. He's no longer a goth.
Mm.
He changed his hair. And it looks like he's trying to create a good impression
Of course.
by looking normal.
Well, you would do, wouldn't you?
Yes, but at the same time, he can't resist making smart-ass comments all the time. So, for example, the judge asks him what pleasure he finds in S&M practices. His answer is that the judge needs to try because he shouldn't die dumb. You don't say that to a
Why?
judge.
No.
But that's what he does. And the whole thing is like that. That's the way he behaves for the whole trial.
Oh, an art.
And he's also very proud of it. So, for example, at some point, he's asked, why did you sign your interrogation forms? Because once you've been interrogated, you have to read what you said and sign. He signed with cock and balls several times. And they ask him, why did you do that? He just laughs. He just wanted to mess with their head. So he's not really playing a game that is good for him, but that's what he does.
I have no idea what this guy looks like, but I bet he's got a slappable face.
He probably does, yeah.
Arse.
On the second day of the trial, he suggests the court watches the tapes, the whole 24 hours of them.
Mm.
And at that point, his lawyer panics and said, no, we are not watching all those tapes.
Jesus, no.
So the judge decides not to do that, but shows extracts to the jurors so that they know what's going on those tapes, but not the whole thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be in that jury.
Yes. And the whole time he laughs watching those extracts. He finds them very funny. So again, it's like, what do we even try him? Just send him to jail. It's just, obviously he's done it. But anyway, he just found it very funny.
It's clearly just a raging psychopath.
Yes. So of course they asked psychologists to talk to him and evaluate him.
And they say he's clearly a raging psychopath.
No, they don't say that. They only say that his perversion is unusual for his age. You normally find it in 40 to 50-year-old men. He's only 26.
Right.
He's very, very young to behave the way he does. They can't explain how he got to that because according to his family, his dad was a long-distance driver. His mum was a secretary. He was well raised. He had a happy childhood. He had no trauma in his life. They just don't know how he got to that point.
He's just a little shit.
Yes, the only thing that is noted is he sometimes has memory problems. And they think it's because he had a motorbike accident a few years earlier. And sometimes he just doesn't remember things.
Right. Okay.
That doesn't explain killing people twice, at least.
But
there might be something in his head, but they just don't know.
I mean, head trauma is shown to
Yes, do weird things to you, yes. They also explain that he has 3 passions in life. It's cars, motorbikes, and women. But although he had many relationships in his life, only one really counted for him, and it's a woman called Alice. And he even has a portrait of her tattooed on his belly.
That's weird.
It's slightly weird, yes. But then we have...
Angelina Jolie.
Yes. She did weird thing with Billy Bob and...
Oh, yes.
all that crap.
It's more the fact that she has a vial of her brother's
So really
blood.
A tattoo of somebody's face on your belly, is it worse? I don't know. Anyway, so yes, he has that, and they explain it by the fact that it was the only relationship that counted for him. But that's also when he started the S&M stuff. So she's called to testify during the trial. And she explains that, yes, she did that with him. Mm-hmm. She allowed him to do it to her because that's what he seemed to like to do.
Right.
So she agreed to it. And she does mention that the more she seemed to suffer, the more he seemed to like it. Which we know because we've seen the tapes. Well, they've seen the tapes, we haven't.
I would pay money not to see those tapes.
The prosecution maintains that there's premeditation because of the phone box.
Yeah, because he went down to a box. Yeah.
But also because when he picked up Angelique on the day before she died, he stopped a few streets away, like he didn't want to be seen near her parents' house. Even though he's been there dozens and dozens of times before, they knew him very well.
He was in the house.
He was having lunch all the time at their place. That day, he stopped a few streets away, called her to ask her to come and join him to his car. So they think second premeditation. He knew he was going to kill her, didn't want to be seen near the house. So they pressed for the one in the US, I guess, murder here. During the whole trial, he still maintains that it was an accident. He still maintains he doesn't know the second body. They can't prove anything about the second body. She's been in his place.
DNAs.
But they can't prove, there's no witness, no nothing. They can't prove that he killed her or disposed of the body. They don't know. They know there's a link. They know he lied about it, but that's about it.
It's sad.
At some point, he tries to... I don't know how to explain it. It tried to somehow divert the whole thing from him by trying to implicate Alice, the ex-girlfriend, and her brother Christophe into the murders. But that's just ridiculous. It doesn't fly at all. It's clearly wasting people's time.
And he's just grasping at straws at that point.
He's just making up stories at that point. So it's just ignored, and that was it. And when it comes to sentencing, he's found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. And still is in prison.
Good.
And that's the end of the story.
Yeah. And just to let you know, Crime Most French's safe word is guillotine.